Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you for joining me here. Hope you're having a great day. Let's take a look here at Solana, see what's going on here. We can see 152, that area of control, that 0.618 fib level held pretty strong as resistance, did not break through and come up to the secondary potential continuation. Instead, we rejected off this point of control, continued lower, and now we're back down to the 145 range. So this is actually very good in a lot of ways. And we'll talk more about that here in a moment, but the general consensus is that we still need to see this support range retested, and we haven't yet. And I think there's a distinct likelihood that we'll hold at that level, mainly because I feel Bitcoin's going to be able to have a lot of support in the $95,000 range. It all depends on how the price action works. If volume continues to remain low, don't worry about it. But for the most part, if Bitcoin continues lower, which is looking like it certainly should, we should see that area hold. So if you haven't watched my Bitcoin video yet, you'll probably know, or you may not know what I'm talking about, but the simple way to understand it is that there's heavy confluence at 95,000 for Bitcoin based on points of control, open interest, Fibonacci retracement levels. There's a lot of little things that are kind of adding up or stacking up to increase support potential. Okay, if that happens, that should translate well to the local low here in the low 140s for Solana. So we look at liquidation here, we can see these late longs getting destroyed right now. Why are people taking a long on a Friday or a Saturday? Not really sure, but it's been a profitable week, folks. So we talked about this yesterday and throughout the week. As the price continues to remain high through the week, specifically on a Friday, we see the price action correct itself. So literally, as soon as 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time hit on the clock, Asian markets open, the price went straight down for Bitcoin. While it wasn't a substantial sell-off, it's just continuing to bleed out, and that's common. Okay, that's normal. Anyways, the whole point of this is don't be a late long on a Friday. That's the easy way to understand it. If you've been watching my videos, you'll know that it's a bad idea. But at this point, no matter how you look at it, 146 is that area that's, 144 is that local area of open interest, liquidation. That is essentially the local low. But I think 140 seems more practical at this point, just based on that kind of matching with Bitcoin's price action around 95,000. So not much else to really note here outside of just the fact that, once more, I've talked about this previously, 130 to 135, we do see the 130s. The 130 to 135 is a very solid consideration, specifically 136. That's been a previous low and a high. It's worked in both ways. Good news is liquidation delta is still break even here, or finally at break even rather, and hasn't shifted bearish. So we could very well see some support here in 146, but when liquidation delta gets closer to break even, there's usually a shift in momentum. We're probably going to start seeing some more selling pressure. Overall, we can see we're under that point of control at 150, once more reinforcing itself as that local resistance. So we got a lot of confluence at 150 in a bad way, technically, because that's just the resistance range for us. Outside of that, we're just going to talk quickly about here some key levels of support, and just to kind of reaffirm and reiterate some things here. If we kind of look at the macro structure here with this ascending trend, we're still in good shape. The sky isn't falling by any stretch. We're still above all moving averages. I think we're more likely to continue higher. But a test or retest this 140, this local high, makes a lot of sense to me. We got some confluence there. And furthermore, too, just again, a support range just below, and that was the local point of control. So overall, the daily time frame does look decent, but there's no doubt that we're starting to see a shift in momentum here. We're starting to see a MACD divergence here, and basically we're also starting to see here that while we're above 50 in the RSI, we're seeing this reversal effectively where the money flow is pulling back. We're below our moving average, stochastic swinging down. There's a lot of reasons why we should expect further downside. I think the 130s is a very practical consideration at this point. Now let's take a look here at the 4-hour time frame and recognize this here as well, because we want to pay attention to volume. I always speak about that and how important it is. So we kind of zoom in here, we can see volumes tapering off. We're under our moving average there, and overall sentiment is fairly bearish. But you could also argue too, we're in good shape because we're retesting our descending trend line bullishly, right? So oftentimes you'll see a bounce like that. But the truth is we're going to need to see a lot more volume to be able to get through 150, that local point of control, because there's a lot of exit liquidity and or selling pressure there. So to me, at this point, unless volume starts to increase, we're probably going to continue lower. I don't think the profit margin is super substantial enough to want to consider a short. I was thinking about a short last night at 150, but I just didn't like how it felt at the point. We did short SUI, of course, and that's been a pretty nice, profitable little scenario there. What is it? We got 21% in 24 hours. So that's not too bad. Honestly, just a high risk short at 345 to 330. There is still more profit left to be taken, but the key takeaway here is that the structure for Solana looks better than SUI does right now, because that was obviously testing a local support range and lost that support. Solana isn't doing that. It's maintaining this range very well. So So I don't really think you should take a short, but I also don't think a long is recommended here too. My anticipation would be to try to take a long in at the 140 range, between 140 and 136. That seems like a solid support range for me, and it just seems like a practical consideration. The key takeaway here, though, is we're still maintaining really close to 50 on the RSI. That's not really a good place to buy. And the thing with the moving average, we're above and below it often. Money flow index pulling back, stochastic swinging down, MACD's diverging. There's not a lot of signs here as to why, buying the dip is a good idea. Now, granted, we do have a local low here at 146 that's proven to be a decent support level outside this one ridiculous selling pressure candle. So for the most part, we are at the area of support. So if volume starts to increase, then that may be a good consideration. But the key takeaway here, folks, is it's a weekend. In case you don't know this, weekends suck to trade because volume dries up and it's unique volatility, and it doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense unless it's a continuation play, which a lot of coins are worth shorting right now. I just don't feel like this is the one, even though it should pull back more, if that makes sense. Once more, just because the likelihood of something going the same direction doesn't mean it's worthwhile, because the profit margin may not be there. And to me, it's not worth taking a short at this point with this tight of a margin. I think we're more likely to wait for that support range to be tested. If that is tested, just say hypothetically Bitcoin pulls back to 95,000, which seems fairly practical at this point, right? There's a lot of confluence here, this 0.618, 0.65 fib level. Just say the price averages itself out right in this range. I think that'll put us in the low 140s to upper 130s for Solana. And that would be a solid consideration for a long, just based on the fact that Bitcoin should pivot and bounce there as soon as volume starts to increase early next week. Okay, that's kind of what we're looking for. All right, anyways, those are my 2 cents. What are your 2 cents? Why don't you comment below? Don't forget to always like the videos, folks. We still get really low amount of likes per video, so help grow the channel and do your part. And I appreciate you watching and learning. Oh, make sure you check out Bitunix too, folks. Awesome exchange. Between now and May 14th, there's a deposit reward bonus for not just new members, but existing members too. So make sure you just take advantage of that. Click the links below and get going on that bad boy. I hope you have a good rest of your day, though. Thanks so much again for your time. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.